Today's episode is sponsored by Little Bird, the independent diamond and engagement ring consultants. The best way to buy an engagement ring is with a bird's eye view. You can find them at littlebirdtoldyou.com. I'm Eric Newton, and this is The Together Show. We all know relationships take work, but what is that work, and how do we do it? As a former divorce lawyer, I've watched thousands of couples break up firsthand. Having seen the worst in relationships, I decided to try to help couples stay together. So on this show, we talk to real couples and find out what love really looks like.
During that particular meetup, the psychologist said, sometimes it's okay to designate a CEO of the household. And we left that session or whatever, and we kind of looked at each other, and I was like, I'm the CEO, right? And he's like, yeah, you're the CEO.
Welcome to the show, everybody. Thanks for listening. Today's episode is our first interview about gender roles. Now, I recently read an article by the science fiction writer David J Schwartz called Masculinity is an Anxiety Disorder. It laid out an extraordinarily compelling argument that the elements of masculinity that we men are expected to live up to in Western society are utterly unattainable and, in many cases, self-contradictory. And yet we hold ourselves to this unachievable standard, thereby setting ourselves up for failure and for anxiety. Now, of course, this goes for women as well. Gender is without question one of the most unexamined and yet prevalent boxes that we all stuff ourselves into. Now, some might say that gender itself is biologically dictated, and that may be true or it may not. But either way, the roles and behaviors that we're expected to associate with our gender are subjective, and they're entirely made up. Our guests this week, Maia and Travis, allow us to take a gentle first look at the issue of gender roles. Now, these two have a marriage that follows a fairly non-traditional structure, but it's nothing that you haven't heard of before. What's instructive about these two is the ease with which they each take on their non-traditional roles in their family. And more importantly, it's the genuine happiness and satisfaction that they take from living life the way that they want to. And that's what we can all learn something from. So much pain comes from trying to fit square pegs into round holes. These two simply skipped all that. So with that, let's go to our interview with Maia and Travis. Welcome to the show, guys. Thanks for having me here.
Thank you.
It's really nice to be in your house.
Thanks.
I love visiting. It's a beautiful place. And
Thank you.
It seems like a cool, classic vibe that you got. But I'm really fascinated by how you have your business in here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, that's kind of just out of necessity, but also because
extreme confidence and or extreme convenience, actually.
Yeah. Also, I don't really I'm like a really big homebody, so the idea of having to leave home for work is why don't I just create my business out of my home?
Yeah.
Which for some people would be awful.
Yeah.
It is awful. A lot of people describe that they had this fantasy about working at home, but then actually the reality is just...
Yeah, I'm really... I'm probably just... I probably could become a hermit if I wasn't careful, because even when I had my daughter, I was like, oh, now I have a really good excuse for not having to leave the house. I really like that. And
I made a career out of it. I'm raising her from home. And
yeah, we do everything from home.
Yeah.
We do stuff, but we really are homebodies.
So both of you are here. Just to be clear, you guys are both here all the time because this is your full-time work and you're living here and you're married and parents.
Yeah.
Our own society.
We spend a ridiculous amount of time together. But, our whole relationship, we always spent a lot of time together. Even when we met.
We worked in the same place.
Yeah, and we would have we'd spend every work break together, every lunch together. So, I don't know. We just, I guess, to spend time together. Yeah, the most time
she would spend away from me regularly was...
4 hours.
Well, we moved to San Francisco, and you got a job at
Williams-Sonoma.
So you were gone
8 hours, and that was the longest we'd been apart. I mean, like we would spend 8 hours a day apart.
And I went to school part-time, so I just went while you were at work. So otherwise,
we spend a lot of time together.
Does it ever get claustrophobic?
No.
Not really.
Divine.
Yeah.
I mean, we have our own thing. We're always working on different things until we like just decide to gather and watch TV or play with Ingrid together.
Well, you know what I haven't figured out that I want to know from you guys is now that I'm working at home too with the podcast and the magazine, I don't know when to turn it. I can't turn it off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm always going. There's always another thing to do.
That's been really hard for me. I don't know if Travis has the same problem.
Well, I can actually get my job done where you can't. So I think that's the difference.
Yeah, I've always, since I started working from home, I have a really hard time turning it off. Like, I always, if my phone dings with an email, it's hard for me to not, answer that. And it's hard for me to not be like, oh, well, there's this and this to get done. Because it's just like there's always something I could be doing.
Always.
And so I feel like that's something, especially several years ago, I feel like I was really struggling with that. And I've tried to get better over time. And obviously with Ingrid, my daughter, like now I really make an effort to stop working and spend time with her.
She demands it. So
yeah, she demands it.
It's a good wake up call every once in a while, whenever.
Well, what did you mean when you said that you could? Your work is finished. And hers isn't.
Yeah, I'm like the warehouse person. I pack up packages, and I usually, like every other day, I'm doing it in the morning, and then I drop it off by noon, and then the rest of the day I'm just stay-at-home dad, pretty much.
But the stay-at-home dad job never ends.
Yeah, but that's true. That's exhausting and fun, but yeah, that's just what has to be done, I guess.
Now, so that's interesting because if it were a traditional business, Maia, you would be the founder, you would be the image of the brand, the CEO, basically, right? Mm-hmm. And you would be an employee.
Yeah,
Travis. Is that how it actually is in your relationship dynamic?
Well,
yeah.
A couple years ago also, while I was pregnant, we were going to these birth classes where one time you would like go and there'd be other moms, couples who were pregnant, and they'd sometimes have a speaker, or sometimes they'd just like let you talk about like, unload about the terrible things about being pregnant. And, one time they had the speaker who was like a psychologist because they were like, well, one of the big things about, bringing a baby into your relationship is it really can change the dynamics of a relationship. So they were like, if you...
Let's lay down a good structure.
Yeah, before the baby comes.
God, that seems so critical,
yeah.
Right? Because you got to know what are your roles now.
Yeah. Instead
of having them be unconscious, be aware of them.
Yeah.
Because they're going to change.
Yeah.
Probably.
And so one of the things that was said during that particular meetup was the psychologist said, sometimes it's okay to designate a CEO of the household. And like we left that session or whatever, and we kind of like looked at each other, and I was like, I'm the CEO, right? And he's like, yeah, you're the CEO.
Well, wait a minute. So you're the CEO, because there could be different kinds of CEOs. There could be the CEO of the house and the CEO of the family business.
Yeah. So I'm like the CEO of both, I guess.
That's fun.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm a very supportive person.
Yeah. He's much more like laid back.
I take pride in it.
Yeah.
Well, my favorite question these days, like for the last 48 hours, I've just been devouring the question of what does it mean to be masculine? What does it mean to be a man? And because we have so many prescribed roles in society that are silly, that are just completely made up at some point in our very short history, and we've all swallowed them whole, and we believe, well, if I wear a V-neck shirt, I'm not a man, or whatever the thing is. I'm wearing a V-neck shirt right now. And I think that's in the financial world, it's becoming more and more an issue for Americans right now. Women are performing better in college. They're graduating at higher rates. They're getting jobs where they're financially in charge. And we're coming up against the social issues of being okay with that. And then in a household. So right in this household, you don't seem to have, Travis, any concerns about your masculinity at all. You're just like, yeah, she's the CEO, I'm the employee, I'm the stay-at-home dad, no problem. There wasn't a second of hesitancy for you.
I guess the main reason to have masculinity is to find a mate, and I found one already, so what's the use anymore, right?
I gotta high five you, man. I just love it so much.
Yeah,
I got what I wanted.
One of the things like that really attracted me to Travis early on that I really love about him is he's like not attached to like labels or like preconceived notions or like he just, even when I first met him, like he was just himself, like, and not in like a cocky way, like I'm gonna be this person or whatever. He just was like, this is just me, like genuinely me, you know? And like, that was really, because we met when we were really young. And to me, that was like, wow, like that's great that he can just be like who he wants to be. And he doesn't really feel any need to like kind of portray himself in a certain way. So. Well,
what about for you? Have you found any challenges in taking a leadership role?
Well, so I was raised by a stay-at-home dad and my mom worked. So to me, this is like a really standard setup.
Right.
But you know, it has been interesting to me since having our daughter. Well, and also partly we did it set up this way because, you know, I always made more money than Travis. And he also, you know, when deciding to have our family, who was going to stay home with our daughter, like to me, stuff I had read about the caretaker of a child, you know, I felt like his personality was way more suited to it in certain ways because he's super laid back. He's very patient. He's like, you know, wants to have fun all day. And not that I don't want to have fun and stuff, but I am much more like type A. It's harder for me I might be more impatient. I might, you know, have a harder time with some of those things. So like to me, it's like, well, his personality is better suited to that. Like why stick to like stereotypical gender roles just because that's how it's supposed to be? Like
it's problem solving.
Yeah, problem solving. Yeah. So that was part of the reason. But I have found that, you know, I was raised by my dad and like I never really thought as a child like, oh, what issues are my parents dealing with because they've kind of gone against the normal gender roles. But now with Travis and having our daughter, like it really has become apparent to me like, oh, there are some pretty like, you know, ingrained gender roles that are hard for people to move past. Like even him going to the playground with our daughter, like if I take her, moms will like want to chit chat and get to know and like set up play dates. But if he takes her, like they don't really want to, you know, connect with him in that same way, which in some ways causes an issue because then it's like our daughter maybe, you know, isn't like getting as many play date invitations and stuff like that. And like, so we have to kind of work hard to make sure, you know, she's getting that socialization because when the women get together in these kind of settings with children, they tend to like group and connect with each other and, you know, create this community. They're not as like open with letting Travis into that, I would say.
Yeah.
What a funny experience on the blowback against the unconscious sexism. I said that in a confused way. So the other half of the masculinity question for me is the unconscious sexism the bias that we all carry around with us. I do. I mean, I totally do. I hate to admit it, but I notice it. And at least becoming aware of it is the process for me, right?
Yeah.
When we think of sexism, we think of, you know, the image that comes to mind when you say sexism is some paternalistic male holding down a woman. But the example you just gave is kind of the opposite. And it's fascinating because for me, because it puts into perspective how we're all carrying it around with us and don't even know it.
Yeah.
And holding ourselves into roles that we don't need to be.
Yeah. Well, you're walking through society and you have to judge everybody constantly. So it's easiest, I think, for people to just, have those preconceived notions.
Yeah.
Have you, so that's your perspective about it. It doesn't bother you. Have you, does it, or does it?
I mean, I wish it wasn't that way, but, it's partly my personality too. I'm not as outgoing as Maia is. So I wouldn't say it's all unconscious sexism. It's a part of it, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I can't be blameless for it, but I definitely see it for sure.
Yeah. And what do you have any proactive practices in that's, do you have a way of talking to these ladies, or
maybe it's not something I don't know. I go out with Ingrid for her and me to explore together. I don't necessarily go out there with that idea in mind of going out to meet somebody.
Yeah.
And I try to, I don't go every day to the park. I try to have little adventures on my bike with her, taking her to the store is even just fun to do.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Me varying where I'm going also makes me not a regular anywhere. So that part, maybe, if I was a regular at the park or something, then people would start recognizing me. And
yeah.
So, and that way, I don't know, maybe I can't complain about it.
Maybe we're making too big a thing out of it because I've been thinking about it so much.
Yeah, it could be. It's unconscious in my mind as well, because I grew up in this world, and who knows if maybe I just never thought I needed to gab with girls at the park.
But you always had lots of female friends. I think you're good at communicating with women. I think it's partly just I've just noticed once you have kids, women definitely, I feel really seek out that community of other moms. Mm-hmm. And I noticed.
Well, there's lots of things going on instinctually, and our bodies are doing lots of things when we have kids.
Yeah.
To our brains, so that could be part of it.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And my job as a parent is to take Ingrid out and teach her the ways of the world as an adult man. I guess maybe the sapien in me is telling me that that's what I need to do. So I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, are there any other ways in which the family dynamic plays out of CEO? If she's a CEO, what are you?
The vice principal.
Vice principal.
That's so great. CEO of the vice principal. I love it.
Well, she's prime decision maker on most things. I'll get ideas and bring them up to her, and concerning, I don't know, just little things if we're shopping at a certain grocery store, the produce is getting kind of junky, then I'll be we should shop some. Well, that's probably that's something I can decide on my own. That's probably a bad example. I don't know. There are examples of me not wanting to make my own decision. That's something that's been plaguing my whole life in a way. So that's kind of why
you're a little bit more indecisive.
I've always been attracted to powerful women.
Yeah, I probably make more of the bigger decisions in our life, or even, but we discuss every decision, but it's I think, I'm more of the planner.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Today's episode is sponsored by Little Bird, the independent diamond and engagement ring experts. If you're getting married, the truth is that your engagement ring is likely to be one of the more expensive purchases that you ever make. And it's a tough one to make. How do you choose? Where do you go for reliable information about diamonds? Do you even want a diamond? And how do you keep from getting ripped off? Now, you can probably get up to speed on all of these issues by yourself because there is an immense amount of information on the internet. But that takes time, and time is valuable. And that's where Little Bird comes in. I vetted Danielle, the owner, myself, and I can tell you that not only is she good people, she really knows her stuff. Little Bird takes you through a process that helps you to find a ring that matches your personality and has lasting impact. They charge a flat fee for their services, and the odds are you're going to save more on the ring by working with them than they charge in the first place. So give Little Bird a call for a free consult. There's no harm, and you're going to learn a ton. And you can find their website at littlebirdtoldyou.com. And remember, the best way to buy an engagement ring is with a bird's eye view. The way we were discussing it a moment ago was as the coming together in this way as a strength for the two of you. You've worked out this way that really works. It's untraditional. For some odd reason, it doesn't necessarily need to be, and we should all probably be more aware of the fact that it is. And you guys have worked out what works. Okay, but you just said something as if it was a weakness, and now I'm curious about it. You said, I've had a hard time making decisions.
Yeah.
Is there anything more that you would want to say about that?
I mean, it stems from my childhood. It's just, I think I just never want to be held accountable, maybe. I don't know.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
So, like, I'm putting it all on her in a way.
Yeah, because if something goes wrong, or which it could do, you don't want to be...
Yeah, that's probably an unconscious fear. I mean, at the beginning of our relationship, I think I would make decisions, and if she didn't like it, often she wouldn't like what I decided to do. So I would just stop making decisions sometimes. And I think, I don't know, that was something that we'd fight about probably a lot in the beginning is I would try to, I bought her tickets to a ballet once and she didn't like it. And she told me she didn't like the idea because it was corny. I was kind of a corny.
That's a much bigger...
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like...
Or else buying my own clothes.
There's like a
if
lot
she didn't
more
like,
background to that.
Okay,
then.
that's an example for another story. But buying clothes or something like that, she would tell me if she hated my style sometimes.
That's a pretty normal one, actually, in the male-female dynamic.
Yeah.
By the way, the whole clothing thing. Well, I can see how that could be good or bad. On the one hand, as I said a second ago, allowing one person to make more of the decisions just relieves a lot of tension and makes things more efficient, if that's what you guys want to do. Has it ever been a problem?
Yeah, I mean, she'll get overwhelmed by it, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think probably, like,
She doesn't want to make all the decisions. That's too much. And so it's just like this huge gray area where we'll just, like, maybe not know. I wouldn't know to ask her about something or to just do it myself. So that's kind of a conflict area in a way.
Yeah. Well, and we did have more conflict, I think, with that in the beginning of our relationship, which kind of...
We just didn't know each other as well.
Well, it's like a bigger... I mean, going back to, like, if we want to talk about, like, how we met, when I met Travis, I had gotten out of a, like, physically and emotionally abusive relationship just not too long before. So a lot of the stuff that, like, the way I reacted to things early on in our relationship in some ways were, like, reactions to, stuff in my past. Because I felt really strongly at that time, like, I was like, I'm going to be, like, unapologetic about, like, giving my opinion, because, like, I felt for a long time I couldn't, or, I didn't really, like, soften the edges at all, maybe, because I just was like, there's probably a lot of anger, and so I think some of the stuff, like, he talks about in the beginning of our relationship, which we've talked about before, a lot of that stuff was, like, there was conflict because of stuff I was still dealing with from the past.
I completely get that. Okay, yeah, I totally get how you carried that in from the previous relationship, and then your reactions to him were stronger than they would have been if that hadn't been your past. Well, as a side question, did you clean that up Did you guys clean that up? Was there anything that you needed to have completed about that? Because I can imagine if her reactions were strong and potentially painful to you, because she's reacting to having been abused by this former partner, that you might have gotten hurt and needed to deal with that with her later.
Oh,
I mean, I think it took just like time.
Yeah, it was just a time thing
to like really. I think over time, like
Maia just had to figure out how boyfriends were supposed to be.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's partly what attracted me to Travis as well, was that he was just so kind and understanding. And I think probably in some ways I took advantage of that early on. But then, over time, he developed more of his own voice where he was like, I can't just like, you can't just lay this all on me. But that just took time. I mean, I don't know that there was anything we really did to remedy that other than just, talking about it over a period of time and working on, for me, getting distance from that past relationship and just feeling, for both of us also, I think once we felt more secure within this relationship, it got a lot better because, early on, you don't really know where a relationship's going. And so I think, sometimes it's a little bit more extreme in the beginning because it's just like...
Well, you can be hanging on and you can Maia could say something where I take it as, oh, we're broken up. And so then the whole next day at work, I'm just like, I think I was dumped. And then I see her after work, and then it's just like she doesn't think anything's happened. And I was like having this panic attack all day about it.
Yeah,
like that's just an amount of stress that I was just really ready to get over with. So we moved pretty fast because of that, maybe too.
Yeah, I mean, the beginning of our relationship was so fast and intense in some ways because, it's funny because of my past relationship, I really did not want to get into another relationship. But he was kind of pursuing me and I really liked him. I wanted to spend all my time with him, but I was like, no, yeah, we'll spend time together, but I don't want a relationship. I don't want this to become serious. We're just hanging out and having fun. But it just was really, I don't know, electric. We just wanted to be with each other all the time. I sometimes describe the first 4 to 6 months we were together, almost as if I was on drugs. I'm I don't even know what else was going on in the world.
We didn't get any work done.
We didn't get any work done.
Do my dishes.
Yeah, it was it was really intense. So I think that was part of it too. It just was really, and I was bringing some intensity from my past. And so it just was it moved really fast. But once we kind of got more feeling secure in the relationship and we're really in this and life started to be come back into focus, I think it calmed down a little bit.
So what's the hardest challenge you guys have faced so far?
I mean, there's been lots of little ones. Maia's pregnancy was really tough. That wasn't really a challenge for us because that really helped us rely on each other more.
Oh, that's interesting.
So, big challenges were actually good for our relationship in a lot of ways. And then maybe
well, that's the thing. They usually are afterwards, right?
Yeah, the stagnant times in between big things happening. It seems like those are maybe the worst times in a way.
Well, I think, because I would agree with you that my pregnancy was really good for our relationship.
What happened?
Well, I was really, really sick. Could not get out of bed for 9 months sick.
Wow. And,
yeah, so it just was really...
She's nauseous. She couldn't handle the smell of
anything.
Anything. Our neighbor liked to cook garlic every day. So.
Well, she was, she cooked a lot of tagines and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, stop with the tagines. But yeah. So, but like during that, I felt really bonded and connected to Travis. And I just felt like, because he was really my caretaker, and I don't know, it really was strengthening for us. And especially before having a baby, like I felt really like the closest I had ever felt to him. And I think that extended even after Ingrid came, like really just felt this new, even closer to him. I would also agree that, because one of the hardest times for our relationship, I would say, was around the time we first moved to San Francisco, or to Oakland. And I was working a lot, and it was one of the first times we were spending like more time away from each other. And I think that was just, it was just like, I was so busy, and he was like vocalizing like he wanted more time spent on him. And I was kind of like, yeah, but then not really.
Right.
Because I was just so busy. So I think that was probably maybe one of the more difficult times, just because we were kind of like, I was really just kind of focused on work stuff.
How did you get through that? Aubrey and I just went through that exact thing, and we got through it. And I still am looking back, trying to understand what we did. How did you guys get through that?
Yeah,
I don't know. I do think that.
I mean, our schedules just ended up like she quit her job and started doing like social media stuff all like for a full-time job, and I think just
so it was the actual
we were just
change.
more in sync with our lifestyle, and that I think that might have really helped.
Yeah, I think that probably helped a little bit. Also, I just think like him vocalizing it, he's not very vocal.
Yeah.
And so for him to get to the point where he's like vocalizing it, I think even though it took a while, probably for him requesting it over and over, like I did kind of start taking steps to be like, oh, okay, like we need to spend time together. And so we did get pretty good at like spending quality time together. Then, we had a baby. So, now it's like, we spend quality time together, but now it's always quality time with Ingrid as well, which is awesome. She's awesome to hang out with, but
yeah,
it's a little bit different once you have a baby.
Yeah, I don't give her as much, or I don't give Maia as much attention in the same way. But because I'm giving it to Ingrid, I guess she appreciates it.
Yeah.
Similarly, in a way.
Well, the post-baby question is a whole topic that I definitely want to get to. But first, let me ask another question about that period of time where Travis wanted more of your time, Maia, you were spending more time working. And he was saying to you that he wanted more time. But it was falling on deaf ears at first?
Yeah. I knew that he was asking, and I think like part of me was like, yeah, we should do that. But then I just never was really carving out the time.
Did it ever turn into, it doesn't seem like you guys are vocal fighters, but did it ever turn into fights?
Yeah, I'm more of a vocal fighter. It takes us a while to get there, but then I tend to be more like.
Well, we started our relationship with lots of fights. I think after that initial, you say 5 months.
Yeah.
We fought a lot. It was like a hangover in a way. And we fought a lot after that, where we were just normal people. And then we're like, oh, we're normal people in a relationship. And I'm not like infatuated with you the same way. So
yeah, it's not like I'm a drug anymore.
Yeah.
It is a drug at first. It's literally a drug. It's dopamine and serotonin.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, that first year we fought a lot. And so, I don't know, we kind of, we're off and on and fight like loud fights once in a while, but
it takes a lot to get him to loud fight though.
Yeah.
It's
kind of a marathon, so I'm saving my energy. It's usually like a 4-hour fight.
Wait, what's a marathon? The fight or life?
The fight?
The fight.
Yeah.
So you're like, I'm going to
But that, it's funny though, because I feel like partly after having a kid, you become really efficient in your disagreements because you're kind of like, you can't have like...
You don't have time.
Yeah, you don't have time to be like, oh, I'm not going to talk to you for a couple hours or something.
I mean, we'd really try to iron out. I remember our first year fights. I would try to iron out what was going on, and we would try to really make sure we liked each other by the time we went to bed. And so it was almost just like getting work done and like trying to figure out why we were fighting. Sometimes halfway through the fight, I would totally forget why we were fighting.
It's not always
and I was usually the one trying to be a peacemaker, because I would be into the fight for maybe the first hour, like having being a worthy combatant, I guess. But then the last 3 hours of the fight or something, I'd just be trying to fix everything.
So, okay, when you say 4-hour fight, do you mean, what does it actually look like over the course of those 4 hours? Give me the arc.
I mean, mostly it would just be like...
Well, I think it would start with me saying some things that Maia didn't like. And then
I wouldn't talk to him, and then he would that would really bother him.
I'd usually amp it up a little bit for fun in a way, maybe too.
Like amping it up. What does that look like?
Well, in the past, I would continue to say hurtful things to her.
I can't even believe you think I'm kind of surprised that this is your view of our fights in the early part of a relationship, because I didn't really think you were amping up the fights.
I thought I was. I mean, you kind of enjoy it in a way too, because you're hurling insults at each other. It gets something out of it, right?
I don't know. I mean, I guess so, but to me, it always seemed like I was the one who was really because I'm much more emotional. So it seemed like I was the one who's just angry and would say mean things, and you were just always.
Well, that's because the end of the fight, I would be like that. I'd
nice
be
and
trying to be nice.
Yeah, you were like the peacekeeper.
But there's a reason you were mad at me. So.
I guess so.
And I was the first part of the fight. I do remember getting into it, but
yeah.
Well,
it's hard to think back on fights that you had years and years ago.
Yeah, yeah. It's usually better to think of one that's recent. But now I'm curious about that. Is it that when he's amping up, is it that his range is quieter than you're used to hearing, and so for him amping up is just?
I do know that he can be a little bit. I feel like this is more as you get older, you've gotten a little bit more stubborn in your ideas. So I do know sometimes if he'll say something, he'll be a little bit stubborn in backing down from that, but I don't feel like he's not. I don't know. He's just such a nice. I don't know, soft. The idea that in his mind he's being really combative is interesting to me.
It's perspective, I guess.
Yeah.
It's actually such a great combo because usually what you hear in these scenarios is that one person's feeling like they don't get heard, that they're being repressed. And he's like, no, I said everything I needed to say. And you're like, really? I mean,
I know. I didn't know that's...
Well, Maia grew up fighting all the time with her sisters. So I think she just was more used to that.
I would say that, I have more, even just with my family, my family is much louder and vocal and, argumentative, and his family is less like that. So I think when we first got together, there was a little bit of working out our different, argue styles.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And to me, maybe it was because from my family, when someone's mad, they are loud and
they might announce it to everybody.
And so to me, I guess I should have known because he's very quiet. His family's much more quiet and he's very much more quiet. But like to me, I didn't see him as being really angry and like really bringing the pain.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about the fights years ago as a tangent from recent challenges, right? Is that where we were? And I think you would...
Yeah, maybe.
Right? Because we were talking about the pregnancy and then...
Oh, yeah.
But have there been any more recent ones that are interesting?
I mean, I feel like we get along... Since the pregnancy, I feel like we get along much better because I feel like I learned a lot during my pregnancy about like patience, and just like going through that was really, really difficult for me. And so I think in some ways it gave me just like a different...
Well, you lost a lot of control over your life, and that was a good lesson.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm like a total control freak, and that was like, I lost all control. Like it was just really tough. And so I think going through that, there was stuff that was like really eye-opening to me, and like just seeing him, not that he wasn't like a caretaker to me before, but like the way I felt about him during that pregnancy, it just was like, I just felt like totally taken care of. And like, he fulfilled this role that I just didn't, I don't know, like even just little things, before we would struggle with, like, I would be a really bad backseat driver and I'd like yell at him. And then it was just like during the pregnancy, like I just was like, yeah, that seems like really not important. And so then coming off of that, I think there's stuff that like I really tried to retain from that experience. Like, don't care about these like little stupid things. Like, that doesn't really matter that much. Not that I'm like perfect on not caring about little stupid things, but I do think we argue way less since then.
Well, plus I mean, from my perspective, I was instigating fights. Now I don't anymore. So
See, this is a secret that you weren't telling me. I didn't know you were instigating.
Well, I don't know if I would start the fights, but it seemed like from my perspective, I would say something that you didn't like, and then but anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and there is the aspect of also with a child around, it's like you can't, like, I can't be like, I'm going to make a big deal about this little thing and I'm not going to talk to him for a couple hours, because you just can't. It's like, you can be irritated for a couple minutes, but then you're like, okay, we have to take care of our daughter, and we're all in the house all the time, all day. And like, I don't really, even though I will say I'm not opposed to fighting in front of her, because I do think there's something learned by, showing her like the range of relationship,
Totally. Yes.
Emotions and stuff. I also, want to model like not being petty and not being like overly dramatic. And, so I think I'm much more aware, like, oh, there's this third party here who's taking this in, and, what I might be irritated about in the moment. I mean, I think partly that just takes you out of the moment. Like those little things that you're going to be irritated about in the moment, you can blow that up into something, or you can be like, oh, that's really not that big of a deal. Or we can talk about it, like have a discussion, or be angry for a minute, but then it's like, you kind of have to move on.
They say, I hear all the time that parenthood is the ultimate narcissism killer. It's like the final stage in many people's adulthood, maturing into adulthood, because you finally get that there's a bigger context and that you're just not that important. And there might be more to it, but it's really interesting that this shift for you occurred both because you became a parent, and now you have this bigger issue that matters, parenting and childhood. And also, you lost so much control during the pregnancy that you got this huge dose of something. Is it humility, or is it you understood partnership, or what do you think the thing was that was so significant for you?
I don't know. I really think patience was a big part of it. And yeah, I don't know, just like that aspect of control. And I don't know what about that, like really, it just like really triggered something in me. I mean, I think also that happens once you have the baby anyways. We just kind of went through it earlier.
Yeah.
And we were able to kind of process that then without the baby
Which
there.
is wonderful.
Yeah.
It's such a blessing.
In some ways, you know, like I had talked to a friend of mine who also was really sick, and like, you know, it's just terrible when you're going through it. But then like when we talk about it, we're like, you know, in some ways it really was a benefit because you go through some of those aspects that you go through when you have a newborn.
Yep.
But without the newborn.
Yeah.
So you kind of are like figuring out like, oh, there's this whole change in the relationship that's coming, and there's this, you know, like you're losing control and you're becoming kind of this new person. But we were able to kind of like deal with a lot of those things before the actual baby was here. And then for me, and so I always say for me, when Ingrid came, when she was a newborn, I found that a breeze.
Yeah.
Like I was like, this is way easier
Wow.
than being sick and you know, like
Ingrid was also extremely healthy and had
she was
complications with anything. I know, yeah. I mean,
yeah, and she was a pretty, you know, easy
she is,
baby.
Yeah, really pretty calm.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean like there's things that could have.
And we co-slept, so like sleeping wasn't a huge issue for us. Like
Yeah.
Maya would just nurse her in the middle of the night if she woke up. And
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it was for me just like, I think going through also the hormones of being pregnant are like so insane. You know, speaking of the beginning of our relationship, you're getting a lot of those same hormones even more amped up when you're pregnant and have a baby. Like you're just like, you know, getting dopamine and all these, and I don't know, it maybe it was partly that, like just changed my brain.
yeah.
I mean, even, you know, that lasts for a while, especially if you're breastfeeding, because you get like surges of is it dopamine when you're nursing? No, I can't remember. Oxytocin. Yeah. And you know, so like even long after having her, like I still felt kind of this like, you feel like these really emotional, your emotions are much different than maybe they normally are.
Well, guys, thank you. This has been a ton of fun. Now, I like to end games with shows with a quick game of this or that, but I just want to focus on 2 questions with you guys. So, are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Batman or Superman?
Batman.
Oh, Batman.
And why is it? Why Batman?
I don't know, partly because he chose Batman.
I'm the CEO now.
But also, I haven't read the comics.
Me either.
And so I'm more just, I liked some of the Batman movies. I think also it's like less about like magic with Batman.
Yeah.
It's not magic with Superman. He's a different
Oh, he's like an alien? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe I'll change my answer. No. Yeah, I think I just had attachment to Batman. I don't know. He just seemed like a more realistic character. I don't like too much ideology in my fiction that I'm consuming.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, and then last question. If you had to either live for infinity, or die in the next 5 minutes, which would it be?
Die.
You would die?
Yeah.
The thing is like, one of my biggest fears is like dying and leaving Ingrid behind. So I feel like if I live for infinity, but she just had like a normal life, even though that'd be really hard on me because I'd have to watch her die, I like prefer to have her, have me watch her die than her to have to experience me dying. If that makes sense.
Which you'll have to if things turn out
I
the
know.
way you're expecting them to.
I know, but like me dying right now is much different than me dying when she's, well, hopefully, when
Well-adjusted.
when
woman?
she's like an adult. So in 5 minutes, I would say I'd have to choose infinity, even though I don't really want to live forever. But I don't want her to have to experience
Lots of potential suffering in the infinity scenario,
Yeah.
I think.
But Ingrid won't suffer, hopefully.
Okay.
Got it? Yeah. This is a really tough one for parents and people with religious upbringing too. So I'm always curious. You guys were a perfect setup for that one. All right, guys. Thanks again. It was really great.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
That's it for our interview with Maia and Travis, folks. Thanks for listening. If you'd like to learn more about Maia and Travis, you can find their website at bitteshop.com. Bitte is a German word, so that's spelled bitteshop.com. That's their online children's store that focuses on sustainability and small batch artisanal brands. It's very well designed, and I think you're going to love it, so definitely check it out. And Maia is also a power pinner, as they say, with nearly 2 million followers on Pinterest, and I'll put a link to that and to her website in our show notes. And don't forget to check out our sponsors for today's episode, Little Bird, the independent diamond and engagement ring experts. The best way to buy an engagement ring is with a bird's eye view. You can find them at littlebirdtoldyou.com. If you like what you heard on our show today, please subscribe to us on iTunes. It really makes an extraordinary difference whenever we get a subscription. It boosts our ratings, and of course that helps us find new listeners, so we really appreciate the boost. If you have any questions or comments, or if you'd like to be on the show, please reach out via one of our platforms. I really do love hearing from folks, and I would love to hear from you. You can find our website at www.together.guide. Our Facebook page is facebook.com/togethershow. Twitter and Instagram are both at together_show, or you can email me at host@together.guide. That's all for today, folks. See you Monday.